Good morning, On Purposers. You are right here, right now, for a reason. Welcome to the On Purpose podcast, where together we're going to empower ourselves and others to live lives with more passion and purpose. How you doing this morning, Jared?
I'm great, Ali. How are you, my friend?
Oh, fantastic. Feeling good after some good hard rounds with you guys last night and ready to get after it this morning.
Hard work always helps you feel better. Welcome to all our people following on Instagram Live. We thought we'd do something different this week. Kind of show you what we do behind the scenes, get you real-time footage of our thoughts and conversations as it goes. So we are excited for today. I think you guys will enjoy what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, this is exciting, especially having the Instagram Live platforms interact a little bit more with our followers on these platforms. And today we have an exciting episode, something that I personally struggle with a lot. And the title of our episode is Saying No. Saying no. It's a difficult thing for a lot of people. Jared, let's go ahead and get right into it. How do you say no and make it come off as a respectful no without hurting people's feelings and doing all that?
Yeah, I think that's a tough balance. It's something I've struggled with throughout my life because there is a delicate balance between saying no and leaving the door open for possibility in the future and slamming every door shut. And I think it kind of depends on your audience. Like, you know, you and I have a pretty good relationship, so I can be a little more direct with you and be like, no, that's not a good idea. We're not going to do that this time. Or whereas, you know, other people that are more feeling oriented, maybe you have to be a little softer and kind of leave it open for another opportunity down the road. And I think maybe that's where I spend time is looking at, okay, is this a no because it violates what I believe is right, my ethics, who I want to be associated with, and then that's a no. Yeah. And I'm not going to do it. But if it's a no, man, it's just not the right time. I'm too busy. I just don't have as you always tell me, we don't have the bandwidth. Yeah, you always get me on that one. Then that means it's in the future. And I can leave them like, hey, let's set a date. And I think that's where I've gotten better is kind of putting a timeline on it. So if you pitch me an idea and I'm like, I don't have time right now, but man, in 6 months, I think some things are going to clear up. Let's revisit this. It allows people to leave being, okay, like, it's not right now, but maybe in 6 months, and then we can work together again.
Yeah.
What do you think? What are your...
I think similarly, that makes sense. Where I struggle is knowing when to say no due to my bandwidth, right? Because I'm always like, I can handle this. I'll figure it out. I can take that on. Is really knowing how to say no to good opportunities. Because I guess sometimes I have that fear of missing out, right? FOMO of, oh man, I need to figure this out and I'm going to take this on top of everything else that I'm doing. So it's that's where I think it's difficult. But for me, the same, right? When I do say no, when I can successfully say no, to respectfully say it, either right now is not a good time. I use budget a lot in business. It's just not in the budget. You know, we already allocated our budget. I use that a lot to say no. And then sometimes just a simple, I apologize. It's just not possible for me right now.
And I think that's the biggest thing is being honest, right? When you say no, for me, I'm going to tell you why I'm saying no. I generally feel better just being honest. I can't afford it. It's not my budget. Not something I really want to do at this time. Internally, I feel more strife and a struggle if I'm bullshitting you.
Yeah.
You know
always.
what I mean? Because I didn't research it. Like, what do I think about your idea? It's just not a good time. Well, what about this? And I'm like, fuck, I didn't read it, bro. Sorry, I got to apologize. So for me, I think it's just being honest there. And it goes back to a lot of what we talked about in our relationships and self-assessing is it's okay to put limits on you. And this is an area I struggle a ton. And my wife will, if we ever have her on here, she'll blast me for this. How many people want something from you? They want your time. They need your advice. They need your opinions. How do you say no to that? Because I personally struggle with that one.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I really think it goes back to what you were saying is being honest with yourself and honest with the people, because if you're giving up your time and it's cutting into your top priorities, then you're cheating yourself. Then you're saying no to yourself before others. And I struggle a lot with that too. I'm really grateful. I actually consulted with you on this, another one of my mentors on this. I had a really, really great opportunity to to serve as what's called a division director for Toastmasters, even though I don't have the bandwidth for that. I do not. And I took it on, and it was in the back of my head with everything else that I have going on as higher priorities. And it really took me consulting with people that I trust, people who I know have a lot of experience in taking on different types of positions and leading and coaching, to consult with and help me get to that no, to where, and it was even more difficult for me to say that no because I had already said yes. Right. And for me, it's like, that's my word, right? I made that commitment. And even though it was before the term started, it was that much harder to go back and say, hey, I can't do this anymore. But it was thanks to the people that I could consult with and really get to that, hey, this is a scenario or a situation where saying no is going to help better progress you. You know, sometimes you have to forego serving others at times when you are not serving yourself. You need, again, it goes back to the personal relationship. You got to take care of you before you can take care of others. So that leads me to ask, you know, luckily I have awesome coaches, awesome mentors in my life, whether it's business, MMA, lots of different facets that I'm in my life. I'm very fortunate now to have leaders and mentors. What about you, Jared? Where do you go, or where would you tell our listeners to go to consult with others when they have a decision and they don't know whether or not they need to be saying yes or no?
I think first off, something that I've really been paying more attention to and being much more mindful of is the person asking of me or asking from me, do they bring value to me as well? And I've recently made better changes in how I spend my time by just going through and analyzing, okay, Ollie asks, you know, for this kind of meeting and that kind of meeting, but every time I go, it feels like I'm helping him move forward and there's nothing mutual in return. And I'll be honest, there's a local businessman here he's a multimillionaire, self-starter, created his own businesses. He's exactly where I want to be. So probably about 6 months ago, I got a text out of the blue from him, hey, can we meet and have coffee? So like in my mind, I'm like, oh, this is perfect. We have some overlay where we're working on different projects. We can help each other. And I go and meet him, and literally for an hour, I hear nothing but what he's doing and how he thinks I can help him. Nothing in return. So I thought, man, maybe this was just a bad meeting. Maybe he's in a bad spot. Maybe he's kind of confused, whatever. So a couple months later, another request. I'm like, okay, I'll meet with him one more time. And I go in there, and it's the same thing. Right. And what I found is, like, for me, I just like unfollowed him on social media. Like, I just kind of eliminated him because it was clear our relationship was based on me benefiting him, and there was no return. So I really look at that return on investment. If I'm going to spend time with you, are we helping each other, or am I just strictly giving? And in the past, I gave all the time, and I'd end up being resentful. Or I'd end up feeling devalued because I'm like, man, I just spent all this time and I love helping people. It's kind of what I do by nature. But there also has to be an exchange of information, exchange of energy.
Oh, yeah. Give and take.
Right. So I think that's where I'm getting better, is analyzing, do you bring value to me as much as I bring to you?
Yeah.
And making sure those relationships benefit both of us, not just completely one-sided. So have you ever found yourself, business-wise or relationship or you know, personal relationship, where you found that it really started to develop into a one-sided relationship?
Oh, yeah.
And what emotions come with that? Because I think all of our listeners are probably in this place now or have been recently and can identify with it. So how'd you feel there? And then what steps did you take to balance that?
Well, really similar to you. And I just want to say that really surprises me. I think it's pretty rare to see someone at that level of success, right, a multimillionaire that interacts in that way, because typically someone who's reached a very, very high level of success has communication as one of their foundational tools. So that surprises me. I really also like how you use the word eliminated. I think you've been going to a lot of wrestling tournaments. But I've definitely had that experience before, and it does bring up feelings of resentment, especially when I don't bring it to the surface right away, right? If I just am holding back and just continuing to give my time and serve without feeling like I'm getting anything in return, and without expressing it, I'm the one who causes these feelings of resentment and bitterness to kind of manifest, and then it can maybe come out in an outburst or a yell or like, oh, I'm not getting anything out of this anyways. That can happen. And I've learned from experience that I need to bring it up right away.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think that was the point that I wanted to get across to the viewers and the listeners is you got to address it. Mm-hmm. You can't just let it continue on. So yeah, I eliminated him. Maybe that's not the right term. I don't know. But here's what I can tell you I felt. I left every meeting feeling like, gosh, man, all he wants, like he literally didn't even ask how his network can help mine, but it was all about how my network can help his. And then I found, I'd get home and I'm on social media doing whatever I do, and I'd see posts from him, and I'd feel that same thing, like, this is why he was asking me this, because he's working that angle, and he's working this angle. So it wasn't that he has poor communication skills. He's a great communicator. Mm-hmm. It's just not authentic. Mm-hmm. And it's not about bringing value to both people. It's about getting value. And there's fantastic people that can communicate in that manner. Our job is to decide if that relationship is something we want. And for me, I didn't feel valued in the relationship. I didn't feel like it was mutually beneficial. I felt like it was extremely one way. Mm-hmm. And, younger me might have had more patience for that. Might have said, well, there's something for me to gain down the road. I'll play along with this game, even though I see where it's going. Mm-hmm. Whereas now I'm like, man, I just don't have time.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna cut it right here. I don't want to see the social media. I don't want to see the things that cause me to be resentful for this relationship. I'm just going to eliminate it, and I'm going to move forward. I'm going to spend more time with people that help me feel like I'm thriving. Yeah. And it goes back and forth, and it's mutually beneficial, not exclusively beneficial.
So I just thought of something that I would love your opinion on, and that is saying no to family. I think that that's a really difficult one, and that sometimes there are situations that manifest that you have to say that. And I was just thinking of a friend of mine who was explaining to me how her sister was like, oh, maybe I can come live with you and blah, blah. She was like, I don't know about that kind of thing. I feel like a lot of people feel obligated that just because this person is blood related that you can't say no. Right? What's your take on that?
I'm not that person. I'll tell you that right now. I'm not that person. Right, wrong, or indifferent, man, I treat family the exact same. If we're not on the same page, we're not moving the same direction. I love you. I appreciate you. I'll let you live your life. I'm not trying to change what you're doing, but I'm not spending much time with you.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely not seeking, kind of one of our other podcasts, we talked about the opinions of others and what weight they carry. Mm-hmm. If you're not even on the field with me, I'm not listening to your opinion. If you're not even in the same game, I'm definitely not listening to your opinion. So while family, I think, can be loved and respected for what they do, there still needs to be parameters.
Yeah.
Right? If every time I go and I'm around you, I feel drained. I feel emotionally just done because all you do is complain. You're negative, and our lifestyles are completely different. Our lives are completely different. Well, I'm not going to continue to put myself in that place.
Yeah.
So what about you? How do you balance that? Because now, and maybe that's because I'm a little older and I really have a strong sense of where I'm headed with my life. But maybe when I was younger in your shoes, I don't know I'd have been as staunch with that as I am. So how do you feel?
I'm working through it.
Yeah.
It's been a struggle, especially with my father. He's a person that I've always wanted that like validation from, right? Like he's the type of motivator who like criticizes to get you going, right? So he's not the type of person who's like, I love you, son. I'm proud of you, son. Like he's probably said I'm proud of you to me twice in my life, ever. So for me to tell him no would take me away from that craving of his validation that I've always wanted, right? So I've always struggled with telling him no about anything until very recently. Until very recently, I've realized that, again, kind of that give and take. And even though that he's my father, I've kind of realized that that there are some things that I just need to say no on, and that there are some things that, like, frankly, like I can't be around him that long, you know, like a few days and I'm like, all right, Pop, like I've had my fill, you know, and I'm still working through that. And that's why I asked, because the more that I talk about it, the more I realize that a lot of people struggle with that. Some younger than me, some older than me, struggle with validation from parents and have a really difficult time saying no to parents about anything.
And I think a lot of that comes from, Ali, that we don't allow relationships to take their natural course, right? We try to, we still keep relationships in the box of they were. You're no longer 14. Your dad's opinion doesn't much matter anymore, to be honest with you, right? Because you have to make decisions every day. You're running businesses, you're running your life. And I think a lot of times, especially when it comes to family, anytime we're framing our thoughts, we immediately go back to 15-year-old Jared getting advice from his dad. Well, his advice then carried a lot of weight because I didn't have life experience. I didn't know. I didn't live on my own. Way less important now, right? Because I'm doing things he's never done. You're doing things they've never done. So I think it's good to have that relationship, and I love my family, but I also know that our roles in the relationship change throughout life, right? You think about when you're a baby, you're completely dependent. Eventually through teenagers, you get more independent. Then your midlife, you should be completely independent. And then at the end of their lives, they're kind of dependent on you, and you provide care for them and you nurture them. So I think sometimes we get stuck holding on to what was instead of allowing that relationship to naturally mature. And part of that maturation is saying no.
Yeah. Gotta say no. Jared, how do you know, or how do you say no when it's a good opportunity? When it's a good opportunity, but the correct answer still might be no.
Yeah, that's tough for both of us because we are both seekers and achievers. So we will naturally default to seeing the possibility in every idea versus the limit. Whereas my wife sees the logistics and the obstacles before she sees what's achievable. So honestly, for me, I talk to her about a lot of this, and I'll say, hey, here's kind of what we're pitched. Here's what we were told. Here's kind of what the commitment's going to be. What do you think? And sometimes I listen, sometimes I don't. I'll be perfectly honest. Owning the gym, I did not listen at all. and I hear about that. Just because it was something I really wanted to do and something I believed I could make work, so I took that leap. But even then, just because you're bouncing it off of somebody doesn't necessarily mean that you have to follow it.
Right.
What about you? Where are you at now? Because you can be stretched thin because you're going to always see possibility. So where are you going to help balance out what's a good opportunity and what's one that you need to say not right now to?
Yeah, it definitely comes with a mix of consulting, like you said, and then constant self-evaluation and really evaluating goals, right? Is this going to help me get closer to the goals that I've gotten to, and really knowing who you are inside. Like you said, sometimes you still make that decision that wasn't necessarily the one that most people were recommending or that your inner circle was recommending. So for me, I check, all right, like where are my goals at? What do I have for my Q2 rocks? You know, what am I trying to accomplish for the year? Is this getting me closer to that? And that's exactly what happened with the Toastmasters thing. What are my big overarching goals? All right, is this division director position going to really help me get closer to those? Not really. So I don't really need this anymore. And I literally have been lately trying to practice evaluating myself as if I'm stepping away, right? So like sometimes I'll go back and I'll watch what I post to social media. I'll watch my stories and I'll analyze myself in that moment and be like, this is what I was thinking. This is what I was feeling in that moment, and try to study me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure.
And studying me also includes studying what I have listed and what I have put down as my goals. And that helps me make better decisions on top of consulting with mentors and leaders.
And I think you hit it on the head there. You start off your decision process by assessing where you're at. What are you working on? Where are your goals? Does this fit in alignment? And I think you hit on a key word a minute ago, and that, especially talking about your dad, that a lot of times you base your decision seeking validation. And I think that's a slippery slope for people, because if I'm always looking to be validated by somebody else, it's easy to get stretched thin. It's easy to be taken advantage of. It's easy to make poor decisions in personal relationships, business relationships, because I'm looking for that affirmation. So I think first off, a good ability to say no and to set your own limits comes from knowing where you're at. What are your goals? Where can you spend time? Where you do not have time? What do you want to work on? What don't you want to work on? So you got to know that. And I think that's where we've both improved a lot recently, is identifying, okay, these are our strengths. We're gonna double back on strengths. These are things I don't really want to do or I'm not good at. So instead of spending a ton of time there, let's kind of outsource those. Let's find somebody that can do those for us, instead of trying to be everything to everybody.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes back to your skills, right? Do you want to be average at a ton of skills, or do you want to be really good at a few things? And I think you can apply that to your personal relationships, your business relationships. Mm-hmm. Instead of saying yes all the time and kind of diluting your product to be a mediocre, we say no.
Yep.
And we're okay with that. And we can do it in a manner that people can still be approachable and come back to us knowing that maybe down the road we can work together.
Yeah. I think it was Warren Buffett who said that one of the most valuable skills he had learned was saying no to good opportunities.
Yep.
I think it was Warren Buffett who said that. I might have to double check me on that. Jared, let me ask you this. Right now, do you have anything that you are currently undertaking that you wish you would have said no to?
No, right now, I don't think I'm in that position, because I'm getting better at that. Mm-hmm. I would say definitely in my life, I've had things where I'm like committed to it and I don't want to do it and I dread doing it, but I told somebody I would, even though I had there was nothing in it for me. Like, it was simply designed to help somebody else. So I'm getting better at that. I know you get on me about this. My wife gets on me about meeting with people to give them advice or to help them through things, knowing it takes my time consistently. So I've made much better improvements of scaling that back. But there have certainly been times that I'm meeting with people that I know it's not a mutually beneficial meeting, mm-hmm. That I end up resenting.
Yeah.
So I'm getting better at structuring that. And honestly, I think that's a shift from my previous career to where I'm at now. As a government employee, I'll be honest with you guys, somebody wants to go to coffee with you. I was in a position I could go to coffee and not lose productivity, right? I could just do stuff later. I could push it off to tomorrow.
Cop stuff, coffee and donuts, right?
For sure, man. But now I'm much more mindful, because if you and I go have 2 hours of coffee today, I didn't connect to set up my next class. I didn't connect to set up the next thing I needed to get done to financially make our future more soluble. So I think making that leap has really created a much more hyper awareness for me on where I'm spending my time and who I give to versus is that relationship mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
What about you? Well, I mean, you just did it. So talk to me and share this with the viewers, because I think this is important. When you commit to something, mm-hmm. and then you realize it's not a commitment you want to keep. That you've either outgrown it, you realize it's going in a different direction, you need to go here. How do you reconcile that, and how do you then come back and say no to something you've already committed to?
Yeah, no, that's a great one. I just had that experience. Well, to answer your first question real quick, even though I get on you about that, I'm guilty of it too. Like I have a couple meetings this week with some people to where I know that exchange I'm going to be giving a lot more value, right? That I don't really have that much to gain, and I always say yes when people want to meet with me for lunch or coffee. I'm always like, yeah, like, we'll do it. And I'm just like, damn. And then I look at my schedule and I'm like, shit, I have freaking 4 coffees and 3 lunches this week. And I'm busy as shit, So that's something that I'm working on too. And I would say, luckily though, those at this point in my life are kind of the only ones that I feel like maybe I shouldn't have said yes to, which is a small thing.
Right.
I'm maybe only losing an hour and there's still a little bit to gain. But as far as going back on commitments that are no longer serving me and that I already said yes to, that's tough. It's really tough. I was fortunate with this specific scenario with division director for Toastmasters to where the term didn't start yet. It was starting July 1st. So I had a dream, I think I was telling you, and then I consulted a bunch of people, and then I was like, man, this is the right decision, so I made that. But it is difficult when you are in the midst of things and you want to go back on a commitment you made, especially when you're a person who really values honesty, commitment, loyalty. But again, it goes back to being honest with yourself. If it's no longer, and being honest with the other person too, if it's no longer serving you and you have nothing to gain, then why are you in there?
Yeah.
Right? And there are certain scenarios, I think, to where on the surface level, it may not look like you're gaining anything, right? Like, let's say, I always talk about once I make the big bucks, the multi-millions, then my metric is going to be things like gratitude, right? How many people did I inspire to practice gratitude? How many people did I feed? Those are going to be the metrics. So maybe on the surface level, if you're this self-made millionaire who's out there at doing mission trips and stuff, it may not look like you're getting that much in return, but that's that next level of fulfillment, that self-actualization that some people need. However, you need to be aware, again, always back to the awareness of what is the value exchange of any scenario, any relationship. And if you're not getting anything out of it or close to nothing or much less, or if resentment is building and you're having these negative emotions consistently arise, then that's when it's time, and again, consult to go back on that. And that's okay. We're human beings. We make the wrong decisions all the time. I think it was Theodore Roosevelt who said, if I'm wrong, or if I'm right at least half the time, then I'm doing great. And that's a president of the United States saying if he can be right at least half the time. Meaning that there's a lot of times that we won't make the right decision on the first try, and it's okay to go back and say no. You just need to be honest and be aware of why.
And just because you committed to something in the past doesn't mean it has to be eternal. And I think listening to your stories, a big component there is who you're spending time with, right? You were in a group that was designed for personal development. You were in a group that was designed to propel you forward. Knowing that, if I'm leading that group, I know at some point you're going to need to leave to complete that journey, right? Because we can only take you so far, and then really you got to jump out of the nest and go find your way. So again, it's knowing your circle. Who's in your circle? Are they invested in your growth, your development? Because if they are, then they're going to have to allow you the space to be able to say no without having their feelings hurt, because you're going to need to grow. Or are you in relationships that are about control, about me taking from you and keeping you down, keeping you where you're at so that I stay up here? Well, then that's going to be a tougher commitment to break because they're not mutually invested in you. And I think there's a big difference. And I think for a lot of our listeners, I want you guys to take inventory of who's around you. And when you're in those relationships, are they mutually beneficial, or are you giving to them so they can grow?
Right.
Are they invested in your growth? Because if I'm invested in your growth, I want you to tell me no.
Yeah.
That's growth. I want you to tell me, hey, I can't do this anymore. I need to move in this area. That's growth. But if we're in a relationship where I'm getting all your ideas to create my own thing and I need you to push my agenda forward, now when you leave, I'm defensive. I'm going to tell you why you can't do it, why you need to stay here. And that's unhealthy. And that's where we need to get better at recognizing and assessing, man, is this relationship helping us or holding us back?
Yeah. And we don't grow through praise and agreement. That's not where we grow. We grow through disagreement, evaluation, and criticism. So if it's always, yes, you're the best, I love you, awesome, we're not growing. We're not growing. We grow when it's the no's, when it's the challenges, when it's the adversities, when we make those tough decisions. So keep that in mind the next time that you're hesitant in saying no. It's most likely for the better. It's most likely a growth opportunity.
And there's nothing wrong with saying no and then coming back and revisiting it if you're wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Like I can say no to your idea and then maybe 6 weeks, 4 weeks, a year later go, wait a second, I really probably should have said yes to this. Let me revisit it and come back and be humble about it. Right? Like sometimes I think we get so stuck in the permanency of everything that we don't allow things just to naturally mature. Your idea may not be good today.
Yeah.
But maybe technology changes and in 2 years your idea is exactly what's going to propel us forward.
Yeah.
So we got to get better at saying no, and definitely for me, saying no, but saying it in a manner that the relationship's still intact and that we can revisit things in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. And for all you salespeople out there, as you know, no, for the most part, means not right now, right? Not the right time, because really nothing in this life is truly permanent. You know, we're all going to die. Not one person is going to escape death. There's not one thing on the planet that's just going to be absolutely permanent. So keep that in mind as well. No oftentimes just means not right now too. And
I think that's a great tie-in to this point here is that when you say no, and you set boundaries, you increase your personal value. And some of you are in business, when you set your prices and you set them at market or higher, where you're supposed to be, you create value. It's the same in your personal life. If I take on everything everybody tells me, my time really isn't valuable. Because I'm always saying yes, and everybody knows, oh, throw it to Jared. He'll do it. He'll sacrifice his family time. He'll sacrifice vacations. He'll sacrifice all the stuff he wants to do it for me. So I'll just give him more.
Yeah.
I have no value. But if I say no, hey, no, dude, I think we can outsource that. Like, I don't think you need me doing this task. Somebody else can do that. Well, now all of a sudden I'm starting to create value in my time. I'm starting to create value in my product. So when you come to me, you're only going to come to me with things that are at the value level I've created.
Right.
So I think for a lot of you out there, if you feel like you're getting dumped on, you're getting all kinds of tasks, you're like, wait a second, why do I get all this stuff? A lot of times it's your own fault because you don't say no.
Mm-hmm. The no is a valuable tool in the toolbox, and I'm telling you.
And I'll tell you, I learned that in a professional setting.
Yeah.
I had a coworker that was fantastic. Man, some of the best quality work in the organization. Refused to say no to anybody. So he could have a list of things he's supposed to work on, 1 through 20. You walk in the door with something that you forgot to plan for, you forgot to set up, it's completely your fault. Come to his desk, he's going to clear all 20 and do your work. And then tomorrow somebody else is going to come. And guess what? He's resentful. He's angry. He hates it. Yeah. But he cannot say no.
And on the surface, he's all...
Exactly.
I got you.
But I'll tell you where they didn't go.
Used to be me.
They didn't go around the corner to my cubicle because I was going to be like, dude, I got 20 things, bro. You're 21. That's going to be like 2 weeks from now. Mm-hmm. You should have probably planned this yourself. And I think that's where a lot of people get caught up is kind of we talked about earlier, looking for validation, looking for acceptance, not wanting to hurt somebody's feelings. So they take yes, give me more, give me more. And then who do you end up hurting? Just like you said, it's yourself.
Yeah.
It's your family. It's your time that has no value. And to me, that's one of the scariest things is creating a market where I have no value in my time, because that is the only commodity I can be in control of. Yeah. My health, like how hard I work out, my fitness, and how I spend my time. Those are the only two things I truly control. Mm-hmm. Everything else is up to the world. So if you're not happy with the value of your time, let's start creating it, and you create it by limiting it. Mm-hmm. It's the old adage of supply and demand. If you have endless supply of my time, it's not valuable. Yep.
No demand.
Now, if I structure it and, hey, dude, you get 2 hours this week, like give me 2 hours of work, but that's all you're getting, you're going to prioritize, hey, what do I really need him to do for these 2 hours? Mm-hmm. Now, all of a sudden, I'm creating value.
Yeah, 100%. Well, that's what we're all about here, is creating value and living life with more purpose, right? We don't want to look 5 years down the road and be like, how did I get here by mistake, right? We have a destination. We're practicing purposeful practice to get to that destination and living life on purpose. So the most valuable piece of the podcast is right now, and that's purposeful practice. We're practicing to live life with more purpose. So our saying no purposeful practice, step one is to take inventory of the things you're currently doing that you should have said no to. Write down about 1 to 3 things. For me, probably taking on way too many coffee dates, way too many lunches, right? And I need to take inventory of that. Number 2, who helps you say no or balances you in saying no? Take inventory of who your inner circle of consulting is. That may not be your circle of 5 that you're spending the most time with, but take inventory of who are you reaching out to when you're making tough decisions. Who are you reaching out to find out whether or not you should say no?
And I would throw in real quick there, if you don't have those people, now you do. Send them to us. Right? DM us, email us. Hey, here's what I was pitched. Here's where I struggle. Here's what I think is possible. What do you guys think? We'll be glad to weigh in on that stuff.
Yeah, we love that. We ain't saying no to our On Purpose family. Trust me.
No, we'll make
emails.
Yeah, we'll take time to make sure that, because that's valuable to us, is helping you create value in your own life. So if you're not sure who you should reach out to, we'll be glad to give you a listen and give you feedback on that.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Please send that in. We'll definitely take a look. Number 3, how can you release these commitments that don't serve you anymore? Think of my example of the division director position. Very difficult to do. After it's done, it's much easier. And then last piece, and most important piece, email back your findings to us at onpurpose.official@gmail.com. And just to reiterate, Jared and I get a lot of value, and Alex also gets a lot of value out of these emails, because we also learn from your scenarios and experiences, right? So when you send that to us, we get value through giving our perspective, because we're learning from your situation. So please get that in, and let's continue to live life with more purpose.
Yeah, for sure. We appreciate all of you being here. It's a very humbling journey that I'm proud of. I'm proud to share it with these guys. I'm proud to share it with all of you. And we're going to all grow together and really create a movement where we're not living by accident. We're not living just hoping today gives us what we're looking for in life. We're going to wake up every day with that purpose and that intention. We're going to help others find it, and we're going to find it for ourselves. So I want to remind you, October 19th, that's a Saturday here in Fort Collins, we will be doing our first On Purpose workshop. Just like we talked about creating value, there's a $25 buy-in to be there. We will limit it to 20 people. We want you invested in your own purposeful practice, your own purposeful living. You will leave that workshop with a blueprint on how you're going to do this daily. I'm excited to meet a lot of you for the first time, reconnect with some of you that I've known for a long time, but to really dig deeper and get you on track to where you want to be.
Cannot wait. And the only reason we're charging $25, which is nothing for the value that's going to come out of this, is because nobody values anything that's free. I've gotten so many like free things, and half the time I don't even show up. So that's the purpose behind that. But trust me, what we're mapping out, I'm excited to get my blueprint, right? I can't wait for October 19th so I can have the blueprint. So excited to see you guys. Hope you can make it.
And it ties into exactly like this, what we just talked about, creating value. If Ali and I spend the time creating this program, show up for 4 hours on a Saturday, and it's completely free, what value do we put on our time? right? Now, we're not asking for the moon, but we do want you to buy in and go, okay, when I show up, I got to meet these guys at that commitment level. This isn't sit and being motivated and leave for the day excited, and then the next day you wake up and you're depressed and you don't know what to do. Like, oh, I felt good, but I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. You will have step by step what you're going to do. And the greatest part about it, you will write it for yourself. This isn't coming from anybody else. So I appreciate you guys being here. We are humbled to serve you, and we are excited for the future. So remember, team, life is too short to live any other way than on purpose. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you all next week.
This has been the On Purpose podcast. If you'd like to follow up on this week's action items or give your feedback, please reach us by email, which is in the description below. If you'd like to follow both Jared or Ollie, follow their Instagram accounts, both of which are in the description below. Thanks for listening, and we will see you all next week.